This is a breaking news update from KGW. We appreciate you joining us this evening. We are monitoring a tsunami advisory now issued for all of the West Coast following a strong earthquake in Russia.
The 8.7 magnitude quake hit off the coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia. A tsunami advisory is in place from Alaska down to the Mexico border. An advisory means strong currents and waves are dangerous to people in or near water. It is possible that the dangers will move towards people if they're in that area, so meaning stay out of the water and away from beaches and waterways. We want to give you a live look now from Lincoln City. Let's see if we can pull up the camera to see what things look like there. Now, officials in several coastal cities have put out alerts on Facebook. We have been tracking those closely, warning people to stay away from the water along the coast. There are no active evacuations happening, though, at this hour.
And Chief Meteorologist Matt Zafino has been keeping an eye on all the developments coming in this evening. There have been a lot of them. Matt, for people just tuning in, maybe hearing about this for the first time, what can they expect to see on our coastline?
Yeah, Christine, the big point right now, I think, is communication, getting the word out that this is a possibility. As you mentioned, an advisory means stay out of the water, stay off the beach. It doesn't mean you need to move to higher ground. That's the case when we get a warning. This could be upgraded from an advisory to a warning. This all originated and was generated by a strong 8.7 magnitude earthquake off of Petropavlovsk, Russia, in the Kamchatka Peninsula there. And that energy, the wave energy spreading outward, radiating outward from that earthquake, which was on the seafloor. So we have along the West Coast, Oregon and Washington and BC and California, we're under a tsunami advisory. Again, that means we're likely going to get dangerous rip currents, maybe some dangerous waves. Stay out of the water, stay off the beach. It doesn't mean you need to evacuate yet, but down in Hawaii, they do, and they are, because they are under a warning. That means they're likely going to get powerful waves and that people need to move to higher ground. And from what I understand, that is happening in the islands now. Arrival time there will be about an hour or so ahead of what we expect here. These are our arrival times, and these may be updated later on, but these are the most recent ones. Long Beach, about 11:45. So I think that's the soonest we begin to see impacts here along the West Coast. Seaside and Newport, about 10 minutes later, 11:55. Southern Oregon coast a little bit later. And if you extend this down the West Coast, Southern California would be impacted probably about 1 in the morning. So again, you can see how this progresses as the wave spreads out, emanating from that earthquake off the coast of Russia. So here's how these tsunamis work. It begins with an undersea earthquake here. The faults move. That displaces water, large amounts of water with a large earthquake like this. And you essentially get a vertical push of water going upward. That generates the wave. It moves inland. And when it reaches the shallow water near the coastline, that's when that wave amplifies, because that energy has to go somewhere. It can no longer go down. It's already moving towards the coast, so it's not going to go back out just yet. So you get a bigger wave. Now, exactly how big the waves will be, can't tell yet. Too soon to tell. We do know that they had 10-foot waves in Japan already, so that is certainly a possibility for us. The earthquake in 8.7, that only happens about once a year, or even less, close to a 9, and that's 33 billion pounds of explosives released by that undersea earthquake. That's why we have a tsunami threat. Guys?
Yeah, appreciate you monitoring the situation for us, Matt. We'll check in with you in a bit. And now for a live look from our Lincoln City Skycam. You can see the waves rolling in there. Maybe a few people on the beach. But again, the tsunami advisory extending the entire West Coast. People in that area, in coastal areas, really needing to be aware of the developing situation right now. And we are keeping an eye on the Oregon coast as well as Southwest Washington.
Yeah, including Pacific City, which is the most southern part of the Washington coast. We want to bring in now the Director of Pacific County Emergency Management, Scott McDougall. Scott, thank you so much for being with us. I want to ask you first, what kind of preparations are happening right now?
So Pacific County has, of course, the Long Beach Peninsula. And so what we are doing, we have relayed the information from the Tsunami Advisory out to our public. The bottom line is that we are expecting a peak forecast wave of 1 foot. My apologies for the phones going off in the background. We're expecting a peak forecast wave of 1 foot or less. We are going to be here all evening. We're going to continue to monitor the situation. If that changes, then we will issue the appropriate updated information. But one of the concerns that we have is the Long Beach Peninsula has 2 roads that travel north and south across the Long Beach Peninsula. So a premature evacuation order could end up causing more panic and more grief than the tsunami itself would cause, even if it ended up being greater than we expected. If we do have to do evacuations, we will do very targeted evacuations so that we're only moving people that need to be moved. We're not moving everybody on the Long Beach Peninsula.
And a quick question for you as well. I mean, seeing as you are predicting a potential peak wave of maybe 1 foot, and also the fact that you only have 2 roads kind of going across that land there you were talking about, what do you think about people potentially just maybe getting out of the area early just in case maybe the situation is upgraded. And then, as you were talking about, the fear that everybody would just go all at once and it'd be a little bit of a madhouse there.
Certainly is a possibility. We're not giving people a recommendation that they should leave now. If people choose to do that, that's certainly within their prerogative. We saw that happen during the Tonga event in January of 2022. But realistically, this is something that we feel like we have a pretty good idea on the wave height from the National Tsunami Warning Center. We're doing hourly conference calls with the state of Washington and reviewing that information from the NTWC. And so we're pretty comfortable with people staying put. But if people feel like they need to leave the area for their own well-being and for their own sense of positive mental health, we certainly would encourage them to do that as well.
So you said you were reaching out to people. So what are your recommendations, I guess, at this hour exactly for people?
Our recommendations at this hour are that people stay off the beach. Beyond that, we don't have any recommendations in place. If the situation changes, if we see increased or higher than anticipated wave heights in areas that are getting hit before we will, like on the British Columbia coast, we'll certainly reevaluate. Our goal always is to give people at least 3 hours of lead time.
And I know you were talking about giving people lead time, and if the situation were to escalate, you would send out, emergency notifications. How can people get those emergency notifications in the event that the situation is upgraded?
They can get them from their NOAA weather radios. If the situation were to be upgraded, we would consider doing door-to-door evacuation notices. We would activate we have a network of AHAB sirens, all hazard alert broadcast sirens. We have 25 of those in our county. If we needed to, those would be activated. If a warning were to be issued, those would be activated. We would utilize our reverse 911 system. We would send out wireless emergency alerts to all the cell phones that are within the area. We have a number of tools in our toolbox that would allow us to alert people quickly and efficiently if that were to be the case, if that were to be needed.
Scott McDougall, the director of the Pacific County Emergency Management Center, thank you so much for your time. It sounds like you have a lot of preparations that you've had ahead of time and are ready for this. So we really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is a reminder we want to give you between the different types of alerts that you'll be hearing from the National Weather Service. Now, first, a warning means move to higher ground or inland immediately. We are not at that level here on the Oregon coast. An advisory is what we are seeing, which is what we have here all up and down the West Coast, which means stay out of the water, away from the beaches. You heard Scott mention that as well. And a watch. That means get prepared, stay tuned for more information, and be ready to act if need be.
And we also know that the Portland office of the National Weather Service has been talking with their colleagues from the Tsunami Warning Center in Alaska.
And we want to check in with our Joe Ranieri, who spoke with someone at the Weather Center just minutes ago. Do we know when we could see the potential for waves to start hitting our coast here, Joe?
That's been kind of what everybody wants to know over the last few hours. And I spoke with a member of the National Weather Service who told me maybe around a little before midnight along the southern Washington coast. Right now, they are saying we could be seeing those waves here of less than a foot near Long Beach around 11:45. Now, that could change. It's not an exact time, as you know. As for parts of the Oregon coast, there could be a rise in wave heights just before midnight from Cannon Beach all the way down to Newport along the central Oregon coast.
It's not just one wave done, and sometimes you could see the tide go out before the tide comes in, and it keeps fluctuating. So it's just very, I wouldn't say 11:45.
Now, right now, we're currently under a tsunami advisory, like you've been explaining. Trina Jensen, who you just heard from with the National Weather Service, also told me that she doesn't expect the Oregon and Washington coast to see a change in the warning system. Right now, they expect it to stay as an advisory throughout the evening. But again, that could easily change as we head into the later part of the night. Now, it's important to remember there are a lot of people who are visiting this time of year, summer vacation. A lot of people might not be familiar with the Oregon coast. So Trina also mentioned to keep out of a tsunami inundation zone and know where those tsunami evacuation zones are. And again, you're talking with Scott McDougall just a couple of minutes ago from Pacific County. He mentioned there's only 2 roads in and out of where he's at right now. Again, Trina also had a good point. If there gets to a point where people have to be evacuated, she's urging people to do it by foot. That's why there's not a mass exodus and a huge traffic jam along parts of Highway 101.
Oh, important information there, Joe. Thank you so much.
And of course, if you're just joining us, another update on our 8.7 magnitude earthquake that happened in Russia. Matt's been tracking the advisory, the tsunami advisory, in place up and down the west coast. Matt, can you get us up to speed as people are joining the stream?
Yeah, right. Nothing has changed in the last couple of hours. We're waiting, but that was really great information that Joe and Trina from the National Weather Service just gave us, leaving on foot. I can tell you that personally, whenever I go to the Oregon coast, I pay attention to those tsunami evacuation zone signs, and I know, I'm like, okay, I'm on the beach. Where am I going to go if a tsunami hits? Now, this one being a distant earthquake means we have several hours to prepare. If this were an earthquake that happened just off the Oregon coast, we'd have like 20 minutes. It would already be happening by now. So in that regard, we're okay because we have time to think about this, prepare, and get the word out. And that's what you want to do. If you're on the coast or you have people on the coast, make sure they know that we have this tsunami advisory, which means they don't need to evacuate, but they need to be thinking, well, if I do need to evacuate, where am I going to go? And how am I going to get there? And as we just heard, going by foot may be the simplest and easiest solution. You just need to go up, get up above, I think, about 80 feet elevation just to be safe. We're not expecting 80-foot waves, but you want to get that high just to be safe if we go to a warning. All right. The earthquake causing all of this is an 8.7 magnitude at 4:24 Oregon time off the coast of Russia. And the fact that it was off the coast and not on shore is the problem because when you get an earthquake under the sea or on the seafloor under the ocean, it displaces water, large amounts of water, especially with a large earthquake. So our tsunami advisory, all of the coast of Oregon and Washington, including the San Juan Islands. So if you have friends or relatives vacationing up in the San Juans, they need to know about this. They don't need to evacuate, and those islands have plenty of elevation for folks to get up and be safe should this turn into a warning. But I'm just saying that that's the situation there. Now, down in Hawaii, many of us have friends and family down in the islands. They are under a warning. They are under evacuation orders, and the waves could impact all aspects of the islands, not just the north or northwest facing shore where in the direction that faces where the earthquake originated, because the waves can wrap around and it can easily be not just one wave, but a series of waves. And a wave can last 5 to 15 minutes and then another one can come in. That's a worst case scenario. Again, it's very difficult to predict exact wave heights when we're under a warning like this. I know our officials have been saying we're only expecting about a 1-foot wave, and that sounds like nothing, but the currents will be different. The currents will be very different from anything we usually experience or expect. You may know your local waters really well. This will change that. So arrival times, Long Beach and Seaside Long Beach about 11:45. And that was great information about the Long Beach Peninsula because it is so isolated. There's only 2 roads out, so make sure you know what you're going to do there. Seaside 11:55, Newport 11:55, and again, the great thing about the Oregon coast is we have so much elevation. So it may be as simple as knowing, like, if this goes to a warning, I'm going to walk up that hill right there. Port Orford and Brookings, 11:50, so later on the southern Oregon coast. And once you get down to Southern California, those arrival times are more like 1 a.m. Okay, here's how tsunamis work. You have faults under the ocean, you get an earthquake, those faults are moving, and that displaces water, a lot of water, and essentially sends a vertical push of water upward. That generates a wave. Now, out over the deep water, the open ocean, not a big deal. That wave is displaced. The energy in that wave is throughout the column of the water. But as that wave moves into shallow water, the wave has to amplify. It's simple physics. So that's how they get big, and that's how they become dangerous. And again, it could be a series of waves, not just one that we're worried about. Now, this was a very big earthquake, 8.7. We haven't seen that in a while. We only get about one of those per year on planet Earth. And again, this was an 8.7. which is about close to once every 10 years that we get one of those. It's the equivalent of 33 billion pounds of explosives. So again, just to give you a sense of the energy released by that earthquake, it is substantial, to say the least, right? So this isn't the only earthquake we've had recently. We get earthquakes all the time around the world, and we live on the Pacific Rim, and you can see where all these earthquakes have been. The big one, the 8.7 here, with several others along the Kamchatka, out in the Aleutians, and even down in California, we've had several today. But inland earthquakes don't cause tsunamis. They're not displacing water. Just a reminder that we do live in a geologically active area, which is why this is going to happen to us time and again, or occasionally at least, hopefully not very often, but it's happening right now. So again, to summarize, we're under a tsunami advisory. That does not mean you need to evacuate if you're on the coast, but it does mean you should stay out of the water for sure and stay off the beach and get ready for some pretty wild currents about 11:45 tonight. Ladies?
Appreciate your insight, Matt. Thank you so much.
So important too, if you are along the coast, you're visiting, and there are people around you that you know are visiting, go ahead and look for those signs of where to go.
And also just in the Associated Press, the AP saying the magnitude earthquake now elevated from an 8.7 to an 8.8.
We want to give you a live look now from a sky camera in Waikiki Beach in Honolulu. Now, Hawaii is under a tsunami warning. That's one step ahead of what we're seeing here along the west coast, which means take action, move to higher ground. We have seen some heavy traffic and police warning people to move off of the beaches there. But there are no signs of heavy surf just yet. You can see it doesn't look too active right now. Definitely some clouds in the sky, but the surf doesn't look too busy there. Now, officials here are warning the first waves to hit may not be the strongest and say all shores are at risk. The earthquake that happened in Russia, as Christine just mentioned, has been just upgraded to an 8.8 magnitude earthquake.
And we will have live continuing breaking coverage of that 8.8 magnitude quake that hit on the eastern side of Russia that has now prompted a tsunami advisory along the entire west coast. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The KGW Plus TV app, streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time. Track how the weather will impact your day.
Certainly becoming increasingly hazardous.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news live from the scene.
That snowpack is still heavy.
Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. KGW Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free.
Welcome back. This is a breaking news update from KGW. We've been monitoring a situation all evening long. A tsunami advisory now issued for the entire west coast following a strong earthquake in Russia.
Now, the 8.8 magnitude quake hit off the coast of Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia. A tsunami advisory is now in place from Alaska down to the Mexico border. An advisory means strong currents and waves, dangerous to people in or near water as possible, meaning stay out of the water, away from the beaches, and away from the waterways.
And yeah, you've been hearing us talk about a lot of different things, saying a lot of different words like watch, advisory, warning. Here is the difference. According to the Tsunami Warning Centers, a tsunami warning means take action. A tsunami may cause widespread flooding or is expected to. Dangerous coastal flooding and powerful currents are possible for several hours or days when a warning is issued. A tsunami advisory, that's a step up. That means A tsunami with the potential for strong currents or waves could be dangerous to those near the water. There could be flooding on beaches, harbor areas. Stay out of the water and away from beaches and waterways. And a tsunami watch. That means be prepared. A distant earthquake has occurred as a tsunami is possible.
Of course, when we talk about earthquakes and tsunamis, it brings back thoughts to 2011 and the Tohoku earthquake in Japan that registered 9.1 and killed nearly 20,000 people.
Yeah, you'll remember this footage from the northeast coast of Honshu, Japan. Look at that. It destroyed more than 120,000 buildings and damaged a million others. It also caused a nuclear meltdown at the Fukushima power plant that is now in the process of being decommissioned today. That tsunami did hit the Oregon coast as well. When it did, it destroyed some docks and boats in our area on the southern Oregon coast. We also saw tons of trash wash up the year later.
So it's important to be prepared in these situations. Before a tsunami, you do want to know your risk. You want to know if your home or your workplace is in a tsunami hazard or evacuation zone. Look for those signs if you're along the coast, like Matt mentioned earlier. Oftentimes, your best way out of that area is just to walk up some steep areas and away from the sea level, of course. Also, understand those warnings we've been telling you about. Right now, we are in an advisory, so that means you should be staying off of the beach. Make sure you're signed up for emergency alerts so you know what's going on, and know your evacuation plan and where you plan to go or where your community assembly area is. If you're out boating or out on the water, the U.S. Coast Guard will issue urgent warnings over the radio, so make sure you have the ability to tune in.
And now we're getting a live look from our Oregon coast, our Lincoln City Skycam. You can kind of see the camera shaking a little bit in the wind there. The waves, you can see a couple people, maybe a handful of people on the beach. Hopefully they know that we are monitoring a tsunami advisory for the entire West Coast. And at this point, we know that if waves do come and hit our coastline, which we do anticipate that happening, that would be probably a little later tonight, near midnight for us. Meantime, we're watching for Hawaii, what happens there. The waves should be hitting Hawaii around 7 p.m. their time. That would be around 10 p.m. ours, but we have already seen people in Hawaii being told to leave the beach areas. The people on the beach right now, if you're on the coast, definitely keep an eye on all the developments as they come in, because you may have to go to higher ground if the situation escalates.
Our Chief Meteorologist Matt Sofino has been keeping a close eye on this the last hour, so we want to get back over to him. Matt, of course, you've been saying to us, and why this is so important for people to listen to, is that tsunamis can be unpredictable, right? So we're looking ahead to what's happening in Hawaii, but it's still important to watch closely because it may not be a predictable situation.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Stephanie. It could be very different what happens here compared to what happens in Hawaii. And, you know, the people we just saw running around on the beach at Lincoln City, I want to remind people, like, you don't want to be on the beach later on tonight when this happens. Now, it'll be happening after dark. The arrival time is expected to be after 11 p.m. our time. Don't be a looky-loo. Don't go down to the beach saying, oh, I want to see the tsunami wave, because if this turns into something bigger, you can easily get into a dangerous situation that would be very difficult to extract yourself from. So be aware of that. I know it's fun to look at stuff like this. Natural phenomena get people excited. They get me excited, but safety first. So don't go down to the beach tonight and try to look at this, because it could be a dangerous deal. The earthquake here off the Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia, on the east coast of Russia, now been updated to an 8.8 magnitude. It was originally reported as 8.7. That's not uncommon as we get more data coming in and the geologists go, okay, it was actually an 8.8 as you look at more seismic information that we get. So now it's an 8.8. There could be aftershocks. Tsunami advisory up for the entire coast of Oregon, Washington, and California, and British Columbia. Includes the San Juan Islands as well. So if you have friends, family, relatives that are on the beaches, just make sure they're aware of this situation. At this point, we've got time to prepare, so communication is key. And nobody needs to evacuate yet on the coast of Oregon. And I say yet, and hopefully we won't have to. Hopefully it'll just be some wild currents that push some things around, and then we're done with it. Hopefully it's just that minimal of an event. But these are unpredictable, to Stephanie's point, and so we need to be prepared for the worst, hope for the best. Now, down in Hawaii, it's a different situation already, even though the tsunami waves have not arrived. And I did say waves. It won't just be one wave. Likely a series of waves. They can last from 5 to 15 minutes. Very chaotic seas. and not just on the North Shore, which is facing where the earthquake originated up to the northwest in Russia, because the waves can wrap around the entire island. I'm working up some video I just got from a friend on the North Shore of Oahu showing what the evacuation is going like. It's not pretty. There's traffic jams and the roads aren't big there. So keep that in mind if you're on the coast of Oregon. If we do get upgraded to a warning, know how you're going to get to higher ground. You need to get up 80 feet or so is I think the recommendation. Not that we're expecting 80-foot waves, I'm not saying that, but just to be safe, you want to get up in elevation like that. And honestly, one of the best ways to do that is to walk. So the Oregon coast has lots of great hills. Know how you're going to get up there if you are in a low-lying neighborhood at the Oregon coast. Okay, arrival times, because we are under tsunami advisory. That means we can expect dangerous currents and larger than normal waves on the Oregon coast. It does not mean you need to evacuate, but it does mean stay out of the water and stay off the beaches, right? Long Beach, 11:45. Seaside and Newport, a little bit later, about 11:55. And we expect arrival time for Port Orford and Brookings on the southern Oregon coast about 11:50. And then those times get later as you head south into California. Southern California, they're expecting tsunami waves about 1 o'clock once you get down to 1 a.m. as you get down to the Los Angeles area and down towards San Diego. Okay, tsunamis. Again, we had the earthquake. Fault move. That creates the earthquake. And that happens when it happens on the seafloor, it displaces water. And it can displace a lot of water, especially with a big earthquake like this. You get a vertical push of water moving upward, and then it begins to travel. A lot of energy with this. And when it reaches the shallow water, it's called shoaling. And that wave has to amplify because it can't go down. It's already moving inland, so the energy just makes a bigger wave. We don't know exactly how big the waves will be. Hopefully they'll be small, but this is a very big earthquake, so it's got the potential to create some big tsunami waves. It was an 8.7 magnitude 8 earthquakes only happen here on planet Earth about once a year. Magnitude 9 about every 10 years. We were closer to a 9 than we were to an 8 with this. And the amount of energy released is just amazing. For a magnitude 9, it's 1 trillion pounds of explosives. Think about that energy. For an 8, 33 billion pounds of explosives. So this was somewhere in that range. That's a lot of energy now moving across the Pacific Ocean in the form of an ocean wave. And that's why we have the concern that we do. Now, we live on the Ring of Fire, of course. Here on the West Coast, that is the active geologic areas all rimming the Pacific Ocean from Japan through Russia, Alaska, BC, and down the West Coast. And all of these dots indicate an earthquake. Of course, earthquakes that happen inland don't generate tsunamis, but this one was offshore, so it did. So again, if we get updated information on the expected arrival times, and those arrival times may change a bit, we'll certainly bring those to you. But I think right now, ladies, the key is what we're doing, and hopefully what everybody is doing, is getting the word out to people that live or are vacationing or visiting along the coast of Oregon, Washington, California, and Hawaii. Ladies?
Yeah, people definitely need to be prepared, taking all of this information into consideration. Appreciate you keeping us updated, Matt. Thank you. Okay, let's take a live look now from media in Japan. This is a live broadcast. They are under a tsunami warning. But the first waves here have been smaller than expected. Those waves have measured at most 1.5 feet. You may have been with us when we talked to one of the emergency folks with Pacific County. They had anticipated they may see a peak wave of 1 foot as well. Now, Japanese nuclear power plants here along the Pacific coasts have suspended their work schedule in response to the tsunami alert, but so far they say no abnormalities have been reported. You can see them zooming in on some of the water there as it moves along their coastline. Power plant workers are taking shelter on higher ground. Meantime, the Associated Press now reporting this 8.8 magnitude quake appears to be the strongest in the world since the 2011 quake in Japan that was a 9.0.
Also, just in from the Associated Press tonight, Russian scientists are calling this earthquake a unique event. The 8.8 magnitude quake was the strongest to hit that area in Kamchatka since 1952. They call the earthquake a unique event, as I mentioned. They said the epicenter was near a recent earthquake that struck the peninsula on July 20th. So this is just 90 days ago. While the situation now is under control, they said there are risks of aftershocks, which could last for up to a month.
And we will continue our breaking coverage momentarily of this tsunami advisory affecting the West Coast. Stay with us.
The KGW Plus TV app, streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time. Track how the weather will impact your day.
Certainly becoming increasingly hazardous.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news live from the scene.
That snowpack is still heavy.
Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. KGW Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free.
Welcome back. You are watching breaking news as we are following a tsunami advisory that is happening and extending the entire length of the U.S. West Coast. We are keeping a very close eye on the Oregon coast tonight.
Let's bring in Bob Attia. He lives in Cannon Beach. Bob, I know I see a window next to you. How are things looking out there where you are right now?
The ocean right now is really calm. 1 to 2 foot waves. It's like a lake out there. And when this is going to hit the Oregon coast, it'll be low tide. So that's a really good thing.
Can I ask you, as a resident of Cannon Beach, how prepared are you, or how prepared do you feel for something like this?
Not as prepared as I should be, but people are aware of it. I think that's a really good thing. There's been a lot of education with residents in the last few years about subduction zone earthquakes and tsunamis. The chances of a tsunami are more frequent from something far away like this instead of a local subduction zone earthquake, which would be far more devastating here.
Yeah, and I know that you said
People are well aware of it.
Oh, sorry, what did you say, Bob?
I'm sorry, people are well aware of the danger here.
And so I know you're well aware as well, as you look out the window, maybe 1 2 foot waves at this point. If the situation becomes worse, what is your plan?
Well, we live at about 170 feet, so we're going to have a lot of company up here. We have some friends who live low down. They might be joining us tonight.
I want to ask you, what is it like where you are right now? Are people talking to each other? Are there plans that are being made? Of course, people vacation at the Oregon coast, Cannon Beach specifically. What is that like right now with people around you?
The CAL's warning system has not gone off yet. That's the tsunami warning system. I think people in town are very well aware of it, but nobody is really too excited right now. I think they're forecasting about 2 or 3 foot waves, and at low tide is nothing to worry about.
And I'm curious, Bob, how long have you lived there in Cannon Beach, and do you remember a time when something like this has happened previously?
We lived here full time for 7 years, but we happened to be staying at a hotel on the ocean in 2011 during the big Japanese earthquake, and we evacuated in the middle of the night, and ended up being just a non-event. It was maybe 2 or 3 foot waves. But people were worried. They were worried about it. I mean, they left. Especially waterfront, they left.
I'm curious, have you had any alerts or reverse 911 calls or anything that has told you about this, or how did you find out about it tonight?
Not yet. Alerts on our cell phone and social media is that's about it so far. And then what you guys are doing.
Okay, Bob Attia, is there anything else you'd like to add, especially as someone who's lived on the Oregon coast? You were on the coast when the 2011 tsunami happened. Any other kind of takeaways from your perspective?
I'd say just be aware and stay off the beaches, because even though the waves may not be very big, you can have rip currents and just the ocean can do weird things. So just stay off the beaches.
And looking forward, you said you felt like you weren't that prepared. Is this kind of a reminder of maybe you should be prepared better for next time?
I think so. We get pretty complacent, being up high. We don't worry about our house, but we can all be better prepared, right?
I guess so. That is a good point. Yeah, better prepared for sure. Bob Attia, Cannon Beach resident, really appreciate you taking some time to talk to us, give us your take, and give us insight into what you're seeing where you are. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And we want to go south now a bit and give you the view right now at Lincoln City. This is our Lincoln City sky cam. You can see no one is on the beach right now, so that's definitely good news. I don't think I see anyone there on the distance.
Yeah, maybe a couple people
maybe
either way.
Maybe a couple people down there, but it looks a few waves there right now, but it does look pretty calm. We do have crews headed out to the coast, including Lincoln City, so we'll have more on this throughout the night.
And as you've said before, I mean, these conditions can change pretty quickly, so even though we've heard from a couple of sources, maybe 1, 2 feet potentially, as Matt has also said, this is an evolving situation. By the time the waves hit our coastline, they could look very different than what Hawaii experiences earlier before we get them.
Now, we know that the Portland office of the National Weather Service has been talking with their colleagues from the Tsunami Warning Center in Alaska, which is what they do at this time, always critical every moment to be checking in.
Absolutely, because things are always changing. And we want to check in now with meteorologist Joe Ranieri, who spoke with someone at the Weather Service. So, Joe, do we know when we could see the potential for waves to start hitting our coast here? I know it's a little bit later this evening.
Right, here in the next couple of hours, potentially. Now, I spoke with some folks with the National Weather Service just about an hour ago or so, and they're saying wave heights of less than a foot could be popping up right around 11:45 or so near Long Beach, Washington. Now, that could change. This is not an exact time. As for the Oregon coast, there could be a rise in wave heights just before midnight from Cannon Beach all the way down into parts of Newport and Lincoln City as well.
You know, it's not just one wave done, and you know, sometimes you could see the tide go out before the tide comes in, and it keeps fluctuating. So it's just very, I wouldn't say 11:45.
Well, right now, again, we're currently under a tsunami advisory. Trina Jensen, who you just heard from the National Weather Service, also told me that she doesn't expect the Oregon and Washington coast to see a tsunami warning. It's important to remember that there are a lot of people who are visiting here. It's summer vacation for a lot of people who might not know what to do in case of a tsunami, evacuation. Again, that is not the concern right now, but Trina also mentioned to keep out of a tsunami inundation zone and know where tsunami evacuations are as well. And, we're talking about that live camera of Lincoln City just a few minutes ago. We did see a couple people in the distance just kind of roaming along the beach. They might not know that there is a tsunami advisory. Well, again, we've been hearing from a lot of emergency managers across the state, and especially along the Oregon coast. You are urged to stay off the beach right now. I know it's a beautiful sunset right now, but yeah, let's be safer than sorry. And wave heights less than a foot, you guys. You might be thinking at home, well, that's not that big of a deal. Well, again, the wave heights that we saw back in 2011, going back years ago from that Japanese earthquake that brought in some tsunami along the southern Oregon coast, those wave heights were about 3 feet, strong enough to ruin boat docks. So keep in mind, just because it's a foot above where we should be doesn't mean it's any less to take serious. Now, again, we're a couple of hours away from the potential of seeing some of those wave heights move in along parts of the Oregon coast, but right now we're under that tsunami advisory, and like I said, we're not expected to go into a tsunami warning along the Washington, Oregon, or California coast. But again, up and down the West Coast right now, you guys, we're all under a tsunami advisory from basically BC all the way down to the California coast.
Yeah, all that information really important to remember. Thank you so much, Joe.
You are following breaking news. We will have more right after this quick break. We'll be right back.
The KGW Plus TV app, streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust. Track how the weather will impact your day. Breaking news, live from the scene. All the local news you need. KGW Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free. On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with KGW and KGW Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on KGW Plus.
If you're just joining us on streaming, we are continuing our breaking coverage of a tsunami advisory now issued for all of the West Coast following a strong earthquake in Russia.
Now, the 8.8 magnitude quake hit off the coast of Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia. A tsunami advisory is in place from Alaska all the way down to the Mexico border, so the entire West Coast. An advisory means strong currents and waves dangerous to people in or near water as possible, meaning stay out of the water and away from beaches and waterways.
So yeah, as we've been saying, our coast under a tsunami advisory at this point, which means people should be avoiding the water until given the all clear.
Our Catherine Cook is in Cannon Beach. And Catherine, what is it like there right now?
Well, guys, frankly, it's a gloriously beautiful evening here at Cannon Beach. Pulling up along the main drive, we saw so many people out enjoying restaurants, shops, and each other's company. You wouldn't know by the look of it that there is a tsunami advisory in place. And one of the reasons is at this point, they're not really afraid of what's going to happen, because I'm sure, as you've been rehashing, it's not extremely serious at this point, but certainly serious enough that they have implemented that advisory, which again means simply that they want folks to stay off of the beach. That was when it was upgraded to an advisory versus just a watch. So that's definitely something that people are concerned about. We just spoke with fire officials here in Cannon Beach that are being very vigilant and just being prepared to go ahead and take more serious steps if needed. But at this time, they're just watching and waiting. Let's take a listen.
Stay out of the water, stay away from where the water touches, i.e. rivers and creeks and everything, until we get a better idea of what the true impact is going to be. We're just monitoring right now.
And in addition to fire officials monitoring, a lot of folks out here are monitoring as well. I've just met Scott and Claudette Schaefer. They are tourists from Minnesota, right?
Yes.
Have you guys ever been in the midst of a tsunami advisory or tsunami anything?
No, absolutely not.
This is taking us absolutely by surprise. We're cautiously optimistic. We're hoping that for the best. We want to continue to enjoy our vacation here. We have a lot of things that we're looking forward to. We do have a plan if needed. We're actually in Arch Cape, and we decided to come here and just see what the feel was in Cannon Beach to make sure that we were on the right track. But our plan is to, if it goes to a warning, we plan to head to Portland or higher ground for sure. But otherwise, we hope to stay here and
absolutely. Enjoy the beach. And Scott, I'm certain this was not on your bingo card for vacation either.
For sure not. But it's been a beautiful day so far. Yeah.
In terms of, the bigger picture here, I know the entire West Coast, Guam, Hawaii, and then little old Cannon Beach, Oregon here. What's it feel like to be in the middle of really what the whole world is watching at this time?
Well, it's a brand new experience for us for sure, but we're optimistic that hopefully it doesn't hit here very hard. So, yeah.
And we're prepared if it does. We're prepared if it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, guys, I hope that you enjoy your vacation here. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us. Safe travels. And once again, guys, just here in Cannon Beach, as the Schaefers just demonstrated, people are very chill right now. We're just watching and waiting. Something else that's really interesting. I spoke with that fire official a few moments ago, and I said, hey, we report on these massive, dangerous king tides all the time. Kind of compare what we're looking at for this tsunami advisory potential versus a king tide. And he said, well, hey, great question. We were just talking about that. What we see for king tides can be up to 10-foot waves. And what we're looking at here at the time the tsunami is expected to hit around midnight is a 3-foot level plus the 1 foot for the tsunami, so 4 feet. So less than half the height of what we'd be looking at for a king tide. And you guys, we've reported on those king tides and the destruction and the power, the magnitude of force that those can bring. It's scary, and certainly the feel here is it's much more scary, much more potentially serious than what we are looking at here tonight. But still, everyone is just very much watching and waiting and seeing what happens, being very vigilant about it. Back to you.
Our Catherine Cook reporting in Cannon Beach. Thank you so much. Hoping they can have a great rest of their vacation, and glad to know everyone is prepared if need be. Catherine, thank you.
Okay, let's get to our chief meteorologist, Matt Zaffino now. Matt, you've been keeping an eye on all this, and I see some video. I know you said you had a friend in Hawaii.
Yeah, my friend Colin McLean lives on the north shore of Oahu. Sent me this video of the evacuation situation happening there. I don't know the road, but here's Colin's on his e-bike. That's how he's evacuated. But you can see the traffic there. Small roads on, many parts of the islands, and people are trying to get out by car, and it is backed up. Now, they've got a few hours still before the, go time, essentially. Well, it is go time, but before the tsunami waves arrive, and they are expecting much bigger waves in Hawaii. They are under a tsunami warning there, which means you got to go. You got to get up in elevation, and that's exactly what they are doing. I'm sure many of us have friends and family in the islands and probably experiencing scenes similar to this. All right, I want to show you one of the ways that we use to track tsunamis and to help forecast tsunamis, and it's called the DART Buoy Network. And this is run by NOAA and the National Weather Service. So again, one of the very important services and programs run by NOAA. And everywhere there's a yellow diamond here is where we have one of these special DART buoys. DART stands for Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunamis. And so when there is an earthquake like the one off of Kamchatka, these buoys pick up and sense the energy of the waves being transmitted. And by kind of putting them all together with all those buoys, that's one way that scientists track and forecast tsunamis. The other thing on this map of interest are these two red icons here. There's a hurricane and a tropical storm right now south of Hawaii. Hurricane Iona and Tropical Storm Kelly. Now, they're not going to move directly towards the islands. They're south of the islands and moving off to the west. But they're already generating big waves as hurricanes and tropical storms do. So that's going to be impacting the islands at the same time as the tsunami wave is coming down too. So, boy, I hope that they get through this okay down in Hawaii. Again, it was an 8.7 originally. Now that's been upgraded to an 8.8 magnitude earthquake off of the Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia, just offshore. And when you get an earthquake offshore, it can displace water. It doesn't always do that. It depends on the type of earthquake. You want to, I think it's called a strike slip earthquake, which means that part of the Earth's crust goes up. That pushes water up, and that's what generates a tsunami, which we've already seen impacting Japan, right? So along the Oregon coast, the Washington coast, BC, and California, we're still under the tsunami advisory. Again, that doesn't mean you need to evacuate. But even though the forecast is only for a 1-foot wave, we don't know yet exactly that won't be upgraded to a warning in a much bigger wave that can do much more damage. That's why this is different from a king tide or your typical winter storm that could generate much bigger swells, honestly. I mean, we get 30, 40-foot swells on the Oregon coast sometime in the middle of winter, but those are predictable. We know that they're coming. We know how they're coming, and they come and they go. This is different because of the nature of the wave itself and because of the unpredictability. Sure. So we're under the advisory now. Hopefully we don't get upgraded to a warning like Hawaii is, but they are under that warning, as I mentioned, under the Hawaiian Islands, and we saw the video of what happens when the evacuations get going. But they're doing the right thing. For us, the arrival times, 11:45 in Long Beach, Seaside and Newport about 11:55, Southern Oregon coast closer to midnight, 11:50 is what's forecast right now. And then as you go south into California, the times get later. And down by LA and San Diego, it'll be about 1 a.m. as they get tsunami waves, and they are also under a tsunami advisory all the way down to the Mexican border, ladies. So yeah, I know, it's interesting because a 1-foot wave doesn't sound like a lot, but it could be bigger, and that's why we need to be ready because these can do tremendous damage, as we saw in 2011 in Japan. Ladies?
Yeah, appreciate you keeping us updated on what's happening. Again, all those times we'll have to be watching what actually comes in. Thank you, Matt.
And we did get an update from the Portland National Weather Service office that the wave heights have been changed a bit for each area. We want to give you that update. So around Long Beach, Washington, those waves are expected to be less than a foot. The wave heights in Seaside are expected to be up to 2 feet there. So 2 feet in Seaside. And then the wave heights in Newport are expected to be less than a foot.
And, you know, I mean, even though those don't sound like very high wave heights, we know, we keep stressing that things can change often in a moment's notice. And if you remember back to 2011, when we got the tsunami here on the Oregon coast from that earthquake in Japan, you know, the wave height wasn't very big either, but it did cause a lot of damage to boats, docks, and you just never know what's going to happen. We spoke to a man who lives in Cannon Beach, and while he didn't seem too concerned, Bob Attia, he said he was preparing, I mean, just to get ready to continue to take in information.
And he did mention also, even though those waves would be 1 to 2 feet, there are rip tides. The water is very strong, so it isn't just a change in a little bit of a height, but you know, there's going to be more that comes with this powerful water. So it's just really important to be aware and be extra cautious. Let's give you a live look now. You're looking at Lincoln City. You were looking at Lincoln City, and let's take you now to Hawaii. This is Waikiki Beach, where you can see things don't look too stormy there. There are definitely some waves, but it doesn't look too stormy, and those wave heights don't look too big. But we did also see the video from a friend of Matt, who was pointing out that things are very different in Hawaii than what we're seeing here in Oregon. People are evacuating right now as they are facing a tsunami warning.
Right, and when we say that people are evacuating, Matt's friend who sent us video from Hawaii, he was on an electric bike as he rolled past many cars, all lined up bumper to bumper as people make their way to higher ground. At this point, I believe we anticipate waves to really start hitting the north coast of Hawaii around 7 p.m. their time. I believe that makes it around 10 p.m. our time. So, of course, we'll continue to keep an eye on the waves that hit Hawaii and what those look like, because that may give a better indication as to what we may face as the waves, plural, waves roll toward our coastline. Again, a tsunami advisory in effect for the entire west coast at this point after a magnitude 8.8 hit off the far eastern side of Russia. And of course, those in Russia reporting that people are, scrambling there. People in Japan also, we had live pictures from Japan of people kind of getting ready as well and taking a look at what the water was looking like in their part.
We are getting live updates coming in from the coast minute by minute. We just got another update from Cannon Beach. We want to bring in Blair Best now in this conversation with more on this. Blair, what are you hearing from people?
So Stephanie, Christine, I just talked with Andrew Murray, the emergency manager of Cannon Beach, and he says the focus right now is getting people off the beach. He got an alert just before 5 o'clock tonight about the earthquake and the potential tsunami threat to Cannon Beach, and he just got out of a meeting with Oregon emergency management officials in Salem. He says they're projecting a tsunami is going to hit on the northern coast around midnight tonight. Listen.
And they're saying that the wave height is going to be less than 1 meter higher than whatever the actual wave height is at that time. And so I believe right around midnight, the wave height is about 1.8 feet, 2 feet high. That's going to be a low tide. So we're looking at minimal wave height, but that doesn't mean that the waves won't be faster and stronger than what they normally are.
Okay, because of that, he says the focus now, again, is getting people off of the beach, and that's what officers are doing now and into the night.
I just got off with the chief of police. They're going to be going onto the beaches right now and trying to get people to move off the beaches for their safety. So they're going to be patrolling the beaches basically the rest of the night, and I'm going to be working hand in hand with police and fire to just try and update and educate the community, because there are a lot of tourists on the beach right now.
He says for people who live in Cannon Beach and Seaside, he says their phones have been ringing off the hook ever since earlier this evening. He says for now, for people to stay calm, keep an eye out for updates. He, along with other city leaders, like he mentioned, will be working all night. Back to you.
All right, important information, Blair.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We want to give you a reminder now of the difference between the different types of alerts from the National Weather Service. So a warning means move to higher ground or inland immediately. This is not the situation on the West Coast here in the U.S. right now. However, Hawaii is facing a tsunami warning. But here along the West Coast, we are looking at an advisory, which is what we have along Oregon. That means stay out of the water, stay away from the beaches. And a watch means get prepared and stay tuned for more information and be ready to act if need be.
So yes, we've been saying our coast under a tsunami advisory, which means people should be avoiding the water until they get the all clear.
Our Catherine Cook is in Cannon Beach. We want to get back out to her now. Catherine, what are things like out there now? Seems like we are not getting Catherine's audio. We're going to try to get her in a little bit here if we can.
Right, and for now, let's go to Chief Meteorologist Matt Zafino, who's been keeping an eye on all the developments as they've been rolling in tonight. We just saw a video from your friend, Matt, in Hawaii showing all the cars bumper to bumper, people trying to get out of low-lying areas. So for people who are tuning in now, can you kind of get us up to speed?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing the right thing there. I can switch back to that video for you real quick and give you another look at it. So you can see what's happening, at least on the north shore of Oahu. This is the traffic. And, you know, it looks like a mess, but they're doing the right thing. They're evacuating to higher ground, and that's what we don't have to do yet on the coast of Oregon. But as we just heard from the emergency managers out of the coast, they want people to get off the beach because even though the forecast is only for like a 1 foot wave, doesn't sound like anything. It's almost like, I'm sure people are going, what? What's the big deal? It could be bigger because tsunamis are unpredictable, and it's hard to know that we're not going to be upgraded to a warning like Hawaii, that we don't see something like what Japan has said. And we also just heard something also that's also very important. It may only be a small wave, but it may be moving a lot faster than what we're used to seeing. We saw that happen in Port Orford and Brookings during the 2011 tsunami and in Crescent City, California, where there was damage. Even though the wave wasn't that big, it was a very chaotic body of water, very chaotic sea, if you will. Now, Hawaii is under that tsunami warning. We are not, but we want to keep you updated on that. So our arrival times haven't changed. Long Beach, 11:45. Seaside and Newport, about 11:55. Port Orford and Brookings, just before midnight at 11:50. That's the Oregon coast. A little bit sooner, as you go north, a little bit later as you head south towards California and Southern California. Arrival times about 1 a.m., so you can kind of gauge the difference there. So don't be a looky-loo. Don't go out of the beach saying, I want to see the tsunami wave, because it could be more than what's forecast as a 1 foot wave. These are very difficult things to forecast scientifically. NOAA and the National Weather Service and the geologists and the USGS do an amazing job with it. But again, it could be different from what we're expecting right now. Ladies?
All right, Matt, thank you so much for that. Yeah, important to keep our eye on every minute as things change throughout the night. We do want to give you an update that we just got from the AP. They have reported that there have been no injuries reported related to this earthquake or any of the tsunami watches or warnings that we have seen right now.
Really good news there. But now our Catherine Cook, the audio issues have been fixed. Let's go back out to her live at Cannon Beach. Catherine, I know we've checked in with you before. You talked to some tourists in the area. Not too concerned there. What are things like now? Have you talked to other people in the area?
We have. Things are calm, things are beautiful. The sun behind us is beginning to set here at Cannon Beach. And along the main streets here, people are enjoying their dinners and their vacations. Not a lot of concern, to be quite frank. Folks understand the gravity of an advisory, and they're not concerned. They have faith in the emergency management system here. We've spoken with firefighters who say they are ready to sound warning alarms if it comes to that. They are not anticipating it will, but again, just remaining really vigilant out here. But just a beautiful night on the beach, and again, just people really in wonder as they marvel at the sunset, the waves, and kind of wondering what lies ahead over the next few hours. But as Matt shared and as our experts have shared tonight, it seems like we may just be in for what we're in for, and hopefully that's not serious, but certainly it is capturing a lot of attention tonight.
Absolutely, Catherine. Thank you so much for that report live for us in Cannon Beach tonight. And we will be monitoring the tsunami situation throughout the evening here on KGW. We will keep you updated. anything new, any updates, you can follow along on KGW.com all night long.
Yeah, we'll have full coverage as well on KGW News at 11. If the threat level is upgraded on the West Coast, we will be back here live on KGW+.